Should we just call it off today? What are you talking about? We've come this far, it's time to give up. Today, of all days, James is reluctant to go for the checkup. As I try to persuade him, I wonder if it's natural to feel nervous facing a new doctor for the first time. While we're discussing this, James's name is called, and I assist him as we head to the examination room. Leah, please wait outside. But I've always been a burden, please just rest while I'm being examined. With that, I was ousted from the examination room. I decide to wait in the waiting room, and soon a nurse brings James back. Please come this way. Oddly enough, I'm the only one called by the nurse, and she takes me to another room. Is something wrong? In the separate room, I timidly ask the doctor. Go to the police immediately. What? Otherwise. His words shock me. And with that, I spring into action. I am Leah, a 28-year-old homemaker. I have a husband, James, and an 8-year-old daughter, Amy. However, Amy and I are not related by blood. This is my first marriage, but James has been married before, and Amy is his daughter from that marriage. Are you sure it's okay? With a child, and I'm also. As James hesitates, I smile and tell him not to worry. James is blind. Apparently, he used to see, but he lost his sight protecting his former wife in an accident. I met him through work. I write webcomics, and one day, I received a request to draw a story based on a novel. It was a novel written by James. I wanted everyone to know that there are things even a blind man can do. Besides, I need to work to support Amy. The story, filled with his emotions, was about his life after becoming blind. Moved by what I read, I was delighted to turn it into a comic. Then, the editor told me, the author of the novel would very much like to meet you, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. With Amy's help, he showed up. His gentle smile and calm demeanor instantly attracted me. I want to help you too. I want to be your eyes. I've always wanted to be with you too. I love the sound of your voice, it's so comforting. He confessed his feelings for my voice, and we started dating. Hey, Amy. Would it be okay if I became your mom? Yes. With Amy's approval, we decided to get married. My parents were concerned about James being blind and having a child from a previous marriage. But if that's what you've decided, we'll support you. Yes, but remember, you can always come back home. In the end, they supported my decision. Knowing he's always there to help gives me peace of mind as we navigate our married life. Amy, dinner's ready. Thank you. Even though we've been living together since we were dating, she hasn't opened up to me. Well, that can't be helped. It's not easy to suddenly accept a woman who was once a stranger as a mother. I hope that over time, she'll come to accept me. It smells good. Just as Amy was about to say something, James, using the wall for guidance, came into the room. Startled, Amy flinched. James, are you okay? The table is this way. I'm concerned about Amy's reaction, but I go to help James first. I'm off then. Meanwhile, Amy had left for elementary school. By the time I turned around, she was already gone, and all I could hear was the front door closing. As I heard that sound, I sighed. Is something wrong? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about how hard it is to close the distance with Amy. At my words, James's face showed a bit of trouble. Seeing that, I quickly explained. I knew acceptance wouldn't come easily and believed that it would resolve over time. Thank you for caring. Maybe Amy is still wary of the idea of a mother. Cassie, the previous wife and Amy's real mother. She left James and their daughter as soon as she found out he was going blind. Abandoned by her real mother. That thought is probably in Amy's mind, making her wary of me, who is trying to become her mother as well. That's James's guess. I'm sorry, but please be patient. Yes, I intend to. Even though I know he can't see, I smile at James's words. Gratefully, James smiles back and says, "Thank you. Why don't we have breakfast? Let's eat well and then get to our work." That sounds good. Both of us work from home, but in separate rooms. This allows us to work at our own pace. Leah, are you going to be holed up in your room all day today? Yes, I plan to. I'll only come out for meals. Understood. Just don't overdo it, okay? At his words, I nod with a smile and head to my office. I wonder what kind of work James is doing. We usually don't interfere with each other's work. So, I don't know what James does during his work hours. He used to write books using Braille, but I haven't heard anything of that sort recently. Well, my earnings are enough for us to live on, so it's no problem. Surely, he must be facing challenges that I can't even imagine. I decide that just being there to support him is enough. With that thought, I focus on my own work. A few days later, James and I are on our way to a hospital that takes a few hours to reach by car. Leah, I know you're busy, I feel bad. Don't worry about it. I want to be here to help. Honestly, I think it would be better to go to a larger hospital closer to home. However, James has his reasons for being attached to this particular hospital. There's a childhood friend of mine who works here as a doctor. He reconnected with this childhood friend when he was brought to this hospital after his accident. Since then, she has been very supportive, especially after Cassie left, giving him much advice. That's why I've decided to have her examine me. Oh, her? Yes. I had assumed his childhood friend was a male. Learning she is a woman, I felt a slight discomfort. Even if it's just a medical examination, and the relationship is strictly doctor and patient, the idea of traveling hours just to see a female childhood friend bothers me. What kind of person is this childhood friend? She's kind. She and her husband get along well too. I felt relieved knowing she was married. A married person wouldn't do anything inappropriate. Then James and I entered the hospital. I'm Ally, James's attending physician. Ally introduced herself with a gentle smile. She was very beautiful and indeed seemed very kind. It must be hard on you too, adjusting to a new lifestyle can be tiring. If it's okay with you, I'm always here to listen. Feeling ashamed of my initial jealousy, I realized what a reliable and good person she was. Moved by that impression, when Ally suggested, if you'd like, let's exchange contact information, I happily agreed. However, that might have been a mistake. Oh, a message from Ally. That night, I received a message from her on my phone. Are you really managing okay with James? He's going through a lot, you need to be strong. What? What is this? I was puzzled by the message that seemed so unlike the doctor I met during the day. I immediately discussed it with James. She's always been overly protective, trying to act like an older sister to me, that's probably why she sent that message. According to James, she has always acted like she was his protector since they were young. She was terribly worried when he remarried, especially because of what happened with Cassie. So, she might be acting a bit cold towards me as his new wife. I'm sure once she sees that I'm happy, she'll feel at ease too. That's right. Then, it's up to me to make sure we are happy. Laughing, James joined in, that's the spirit. Watching us, Amy seemed to want to say something. Amy, is something wrong? It's nothing. When I asked her, she glanced at James and shook her head. Then, saying she was going to bed, she went to her room. Amy should try to smile a bit more. Hearing James's murmur, I turned around to find him tilting his head, puzzled. Something about his reaction felt slightly off. Can you tell by Amy's expression? Yes. We're family, after all. I can tell by the tone of her voice. James says this with a smile. Indeed, after being together for 8 years, it's possible he can sense it from the sound of her voice. But how could he respond to me when I turned around silently? Just a coincidence? Something wrong, Leah? No, it's nothing. James asks, sounding concerned, either sensing my distress or wondering why I had gone silent. I shake my head at him. I must be overthinking it. I convince myself of that. Leah. On a rare day off, Amy unexpectedly starts a conversation. Surprised, I manage to smile without letting her notice. "What's up?" "This is for when Dad's not around." Saying so, she hands me a piece of paper. As I take the paper, she says, "Please make sure Dad doesn't see it," and quickly leaves. I hear the front door close, so she must have gone out. I remember her mentioning she was going to a friend's house. What's this? The paper had a certain number on it. Leah? Has Amy left already? As I ponder the meaning of the number, James calls out to me. I quickly hide the paper in my pocket. Yes, she's already gone. Seems a bit rushed. It's good for her to be like a child, isn't it? I hope someday she can act that way around me too. James chuckles at my words. He doesn't seem to notice what I hid. What about you, James? Aren't you off today? Usually, James rests until nearly noon on his days off. So I hadn't expected him to be up this early. I thought we could go for a walk together, if it's not too much for you, of course. James invites me with a gentle smile. That sounds nice. I could use a change of scenery. You work so hard, Leah. Just don't overdo it. James probably thinks I'm tired from my job. But it's not the work that's wearing me out. It's the contact from Ally that has been draining me. Since then, she has been sending messages telling me not to bother James. Initially, I replied, "It's okay. We help each other out," but as the messages kept coming daily, I've recently been ignoring them. It's been a while since we've gone for a walk. Yes, it has. During the walk, I memorized the number Amy gave me and disposed of the paper itself, hoping I'll never need to use that number. A few days later. It was time for James's regular checkup, and I took him to the usual hospital, a few hours' drive away. What? Ally is off? Yes, apparently she caught the infectious disease that's going around. What was different this time was that Ally was off. However, there are other competent doctors here, so we decided to see one of them. I was relieved that our hours-long trip wasn't wasted. I thought so, but it seemed James felt differently. If she's not here, maybe we should just call it off today. What? He suddenly started saying this, and I involuntarily turned back to him. What are you talking about? It's a regular checkup, you need to go through with it. Besides, we've come all this way, let's make the most of it. Saying this, James made a reluctant face. I calmed him down and had him sit in the waiting room chair. Really, shouldn't we just call it off today? What are you talking about? We've come all this way, it's time to give up. Today, of all days, James was reluctant to go for the checkup. As I tried to persuade him, I wondered if it was natural to feel nervous facing a new doctor for the first time. While we were discussing this, James's name was called, and I assisted him as we headed to the examination room. Leah, please wait outside. But I always trouble you, just rest while I'm being examined. With that, I was ousted from the examination room. As I waited in the waiting area, it wasn't long before a nurse came out with James. Please come this way. Oddly enough, I was the only one called by the nurse, and she took me to another room. Is something wrong? In the separate room, I cautiously asked the doctor. Go to the police immediately. What? If this continues, you will be used and then abandoned. I was shocked by the words that came out of his mouth. And to act immediately, I started moving. Sometime later, I received a call from James on my phone. Leah, where on earth have you gone? Me? I'm at the police station now. With Amy and Cassie. James fell silent at my words, seemingly speechless. After a while, he whispered in a frail voice, "Why?" Dr. Wilson told me your true nature. It was Dr. Wilson who had told me the truth at that time. He called me out and said, James can see. What? And he is not the kind person you think he is. That's what he told me. His words honestly left me bewildered. It's understandable that you find it hard to believe, but haven't you yourself felt something suspicious? At those words, recent actions of his flashed through my mind. Reacting to my movements despite supposedly not being able to see. Moving around the house without assistance and getting ready perfectly, despite it being a well-known environment. Above all, his relationship with Amy was concerning. Amy was always mindful of his eyes, and whenever I was talking to her, James would immediately intervene. It was as if he was monitoring Amy's every move. It does bother me, indeed. What he's showing you is a facade. He's conspiring with Dr. Ally Brown to deceive you. If James's blindness were a lie, it would be strange for her not to notice. Maybe she colluded with him because they are childhood friends. They are having an affair. What? It seems Ally was helping James not because they were acquaintances, but because they were in a romantic relationship. When I heard more, I learned their relationship started during Cassie's time, and she was aware of it. Being a nurse, Cassie was close to Dr. Wilson and had discussed it with him and others around her. Right when she confronted them about it, I heard that both Cassie and James had an accident. Those words gave me a bad feeling. I didn't want to believe it, but I believe James had a hand in causing that accident, Dr. Wilson told me, seeing my shock. Afterward, she apparently returned to her hometown, and we lost contact with her. I heard that Amy was taken in by James. Yes, she actually lives with me now. It's likely that James took Amy in to assess how much she knows the truth and to handle the child support. Given these circumstances, he probably came to check on me while I talked, to ensure I didn't say anything unnecessary. Realizing this, Amy hasn't opened up to me and seemed to be trying to escape from James. I can hardly believe it. But there are parts one do understand. I wish we could get in touch with Cassie, the former wife, but it seems she's changed her contact information. His words remind me of the number Amy gave me. Actually, Amy gave me a certain phone number. And so, I decided to call that number to find out the truth. The person who answered the phone was, as I expected, Cassie. When I told James this, he fell silent. Ignoring his silence, I continued speaking. She seemed to have been monitored by your parents. Still, she wanted to maintain a connection with her daughter and had given Amy the contact info, a phone you guys didn't know about. Amy herself doesn't have a phone, and she couldn't use the landline as James monitored it. The only one she could contact was me. That's why Amy gave me the phone number. Cassie, being a nurse, is very observant. She found a time when your parents' surveillance was lax and escaped. What are you doing? James's voice was more irritated than I had ever heard it. It seems his true nature was revealed. I called Amy's school immediately, and now we are all at the police station. In front of me, the mother and daughter were having an emotional reunion. The sight almost made me tear up as well. Stirring up unnecessary trouble. What unnecessary trouble? I just did what any decent person would do. Cassie and Amy, both in tears, saying, "Thank you." What I felt then was intense anger. The fact that he had separated a mother and daughter for selfish reasons. His actions of deceiving those around him for his own benefit. And the realization that the novel that had moved me was based on lies. Knowing this, my mind went blank with surprise and rage. Cassie has evidence that she was monitored by your parents. And with Dr. Wilson's medical report, you could even be prosecuted for fraudulently claiming disability benefits because you are not blind. Why would you do this? You enjoyed our life together, didn't you? Indeed, I felt happy in our life together. Above all, I married James because I loved him. That's right. You were laughing at me, weren't you? Upon saying this, James fell silent again. In fact, before going to the police station, I stopped by our house and peeked into his office. I thought I might find evidence of his infidelity. What I found were messages where you and Ally were mocking me, showing that you weren't working at all. That is messages that called me a clueless and naive, easy to exploit. Ally had asked James why he chose such a woman, to which he replied it was for the money. You chose me because as a webcomic artist I had earnings. You thought it was simple for someone to be moved by their own novel. I was really underestimated, wasn't I? To that, James responded, "It can't be helped." What does he mean, it can't be helped? As I pondered this, he began speaking without being asked. "I really didn't want to do this. But I desperately needed money. And I truly love only you, Leah. Do you think I can believe that? After you even planned to get rid of me." "What? You saw that too?" Yes, in addition to the messages with Ally, he had made plans to eliminate me. James, who had lived a lavish life without working by taking alimony from his ex-wife, couldn't forget such a life and was looking for a new source of income as me. As a webcomic artist, I had earnings and worked from home, making it easy for James to keep watch. "And once you were tired of me, you planned to make it look like an accident, right?" "That was a joke, I wasn't serious." "It didn't seem like a joke to me. That's why we all ran to the police." I went to the police to expose James and his fraud, knowing my life might be in danger. Amy was there to be protected from James, and Cassie was there to file a report for defamation and the lies spread about her being under surveillance. "You're finished now. The police are on their way to you." At those words, James cursed under his breath. Right after, I heard Dr. Wilson's voice saying, "Running away is futile," indicating James's attempt to flee had failed. "It seems it's over." I hung up the phone after hearing the police's voice. Certainly, the police would be heading to Ally's house, where she was recuperating, and to his parents' house. "It's all right now," I assured Amy. "Thank you for letting me see my mom," she responded with a bright smile. Seeing her smile, I felt immense happiness. Later, I heard that they went back to Cassie's family home, which is a plane ride away, out of James's reach. "Leave that man to me. I'll make sure he faces responsibility." Telling them this seemed to give them some peace of mind. Amy and her mother returned home with smiles. Meanwhile, James ended up in the care of the police. Although the plan to harm me hadn't been executed yet, resulting in insufficient evidence. The issues with the benefits and his actions with Cassie were deemed malicious. Because of that, James has been sentenced to prison. That's good to hear. Today, I was meeting with Dr. Wilson to report on James's situation. When I reported, he smiled in relief. "And Ally? She is being charged for writing false medical reports." Dr. Wilson explained her current situation to me. She has apparently been stripped of her medical license due to this incident. Of course, she's also been expelled from the hospital. However, it was discovered that she was involved with multiple patients and was taking hospital supplies home, and now she faces several claims from the hospital. Furthermore, her husband has found out everything and divorced her without question. Well, she brought this upon herself, so it can't be helped. "Leah, you got divorced too, right?" "Yes, naturally. My divorce from James has also been finalized. We had a lawyer mediate, and I've blocked all contact with him. Thanks to that, I was able to divorce him without having to meet him." "I'm really glad I could help you, at least," said Dr. Wilson with a smile. He seemed to have been regretting that he couldn't help Cassie sooner. Just when he saw me with James, he decided he had to help this time and had been working behind the scenes. There wasn't enough evidence that Ally and James were conspiring, so I was biding my time, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth about his eyes. To see through James's lies, one would have to examine him first. However, Ally always took charge of James's cases, never letting other doctors near him. So he had been waiting for an opportunity, and this time it finally came. "No matter how good his acting is, he can't deceive a doctor's eye," Dr. Wilson said with a laugh, as if to say he had accomplished his mission. "I really owe you my life. If you hadn't told me the truth that day, I might not have been in this world anymore." As I sincerely thanked him, he laughed and said, "Thank you for trusting me." Some time later, I noticed that Ally had been trying to contact me on my phone. I forgot to block her. Dozens of calls and messages. The messages read, "You've ruined my life. You tried to ruin my life first, so you have no right to complain," I muttered, and without responding, I blocked her number. Currently, I have returned to my parents' house. They probably don't know where that is, so I should be able to live peacefully for a while. "Leah, are you ready for dinner? or are you still working? Thanks, Mom. I just finished up, I said with a smile as I headed towards her. Soon after, a certain news dominated the media. It was about the famous webcomic author arrested for fraud. My webcomic had become popular and was even planned to be adapted into an anime. However, when it was revealed that the entire content was fabricated, the anime project was scrapped. As the author, I faced some criticism. But since the editing team and the hospital defended me, I am now seen more as a victim. When James gets out, he'll find he has nowhere to return to, I thought to myself. After all his deceits, it's time for him to face the consequences. Years later, though I had moved out, I had come back to my parents' house for a small errand. Then, the doorbell rang. Yes, who is it? It's been a while, Leah. I've come to pick you up. Standing there was James, who had stopped pretending to be blind. Before opening the front door, I checked the monitor. Then, unasked, he began to explain his circumstances. He had been arrested over the situation with Cassie, had borrowed money to repay disability benefits, and because his parents had been ostracized by the neighbors, they had moved, leaving him with no home to return to. I have only you left, Leah. Let's be happy together? No, thank you. I decisively rejected his plea. James looked hurt, as if he believed himself to be the victim. It's all your fault this happened. Don't you think you should take responsibility? I don't think so. I have no responsibility here. It's all the result of your own actions, isn't it? But... Even as I rejected him, James tried to cling to me. As I was about to call the police in disgust. What are you doing here? Someone spoke to him. James turned around in surprise. You, the doctor. There stood Dr. Wilson with an angry expression, along with my parents. Did you really come here to cling to her? That's pretty pathetic. Shut up. If you hadn't meddled in the first place. I did what was right as a doctor and as a human being, Dr. Wilson responded calmly, yet angrily. Watching them, I called the police. Your selfishness has caused trouble for many people. If anyone should take responsibility, it's you. Damn it. James tried to lash out at Dr. Wilson. Enough already. However, he was stopped by my father. My father, who had learned self-defense in his youth, easily subdued James, who hadn't engaged in proper physical activity due to his years of feigning blindness. Damn. Let go. James protested, but my father did not release him until the police I had called arrived and took him away. Leah, are you okay? Yes, thank you. After James was gone, I responded with a smile to the concerned doctor. Then he smiled, relieved. You really rushed over the moment you saw that guy. Really? I can trust you with her. Watching us, my parents smiled affectionately. Yes, we were actually engaged. The incident with James had brought us together, and we started dating after he confessed. I will take good care of her, he assured, nodding to my parents, who nodded back in agreement. Well, the moving's done, how about we celebrate at the new house? I had actually come home today to help my parents move. It was intended as a precaution against James, but it seems we were just in time. Well, it was nice to see Dr. Wilson's gallant behavior, and next time he can enjoy the despair of finding no one here. Let's go. Right. As I nodded, he held out his hand. I took it with a smile. And after a while, today is my second wedding. Leah, you look beautiful. Thank you, Amy. Amy and her mother had made a special effort to attend the ceremony, blessing us abundantly. I couldn't become her mother, but seeing her full smile was enough. Enjoy today. Yes. Congratulations on your wedding. I responded to her smile with a heartfelt one of my own.